Good afternoon, morning, evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Oak Island Research Channel. A new video today named The Sphinx of Talmont. It's been a while since I broadcasted a video. I actually moved in France and I relocated down south west near the Spanish border. And that's the reason why I'm able to make that video and propose this information to you today. Just a word in French for my French viewers. Chers amis français, cette vidéo va être disponible en français dans quelques jours, le temps que je fasse la traduction et que je la enregistre. Donc juste 1 ou 2 jours de patience, je compte le faire demain ou après-demain. Alright, so today we're going to talk about Talmont. And Talmont is referenced in the Oak Island map at the bottom right corner of the map as the signature somehow, which says Le Lionceau de Talmont. In English would be the Lion Cub of Talmont. And we're gonna investigate this because I may have another way of looking at this. By the end of the video, you'll know more. All this started because living in Southwest, I'm only now 2.5, 3 hours driving from Rochefoucauld Castle. And on the Journée de Patrimoine in France, which is a day where all museums, government agencies, and castles and such all cultural and historical premises are very cheap to go to. There's usually a lot of people decided to go to Rochefoucauld Castle and pay a visit to this place. So on the left hand side you got an overview of the castle, and on the right hand side that's the entrance going to the castle through the garden, and on the right hand side of that garden you would see the fountain, and the fountain is important in the geometric construction. Just giving you a glance at Google Earth here. We know that some alignment between the Saint Honora Island and the Northern Cross, exactly aligned with Northern Cross direction, goes through this fountain here. And this fountain is an Italian fountain. I'll let you pause the video and read. I'm not going to read everything, but basically it was not there when the castle was built. It's been dismantled and moved from several places, 4 places from what I understand reading, to end up finally on the garden in front of the Rochefoucauld Castle. The octagonal shape fountain is in a bad shape. I had a look at it and there's nothing to it very special. What is special is its location, and why did they put it at this very precise location? It's not aligned on anything with the castle. It's not in the middle of the garden. It's not on any diagonally set. It's really put some almost random place on the castle. So it's very interesting because it's got nothing to do there. They added it at this very special place. So I had interest into this fountain, but it's pretty disappointing because there's nothing, written on it or nothing special about it. It's just its position. And while on premises, I gave a video call to Michael saying, "Hey, I'm there," with a FaceTime, thing. I'm in the castle, and actually visited the castle since it was one of those patrimoine days, those open doors day. And managed to visit the library, very impressive. But almost all what is presented to public dates from 1650 on or 1700 on, and there's not a lot. It's rather 1800s. I had information from the Countess of Rochefoucauld, which you can see on the right hand side next to me. She was very kind and she was very open-minded in having sharing her premises or place and explaining the history, specifically of François Rochefoucauld and other Rochefoucauld, which were enlightened people. And I introduced myself to her, speaking one-on-one as a researcher on her family ancestors. I didn't come out of the blue saying, hey, I'm about Oak Island and there's something about your family and give me your documents. That's not how it happened. So I introduced myself to her as a researcher on her family, and I tried to communicate around Guy Rochefoucauld 7th, because he's supposedly the not the author, but the person who ordered the Rochefoucauld Grail. and she had no clue. She had no clue into what the Rochefoucauld girl could be, and we're just too far apart, right? She's in her own world trying to have her castle survive. She doesn't get much money from the government, and she's trying to be welcoming and gracious, but she's not doing the same crazy things as we were doing. So I didn't want to bother, of course, and I did not insist. But yeah, that's the way it is. The Rochefoucauld, about their ancestors, not really see them the way we see them. But it was a very interesting meeting with her, and a very nice lady, countess. So that was on the Rochefoucauld. And from Rochefoucauld, it's only 1 hour driving to Talmont. So I went to Talmont on the same trip over the weekend, but not this Talmont. And this is where I want to bring you to with this video, is which Talmont are we talking about? I checked again half an hour ago, and there's only 2 cities in France, or villages, or premises, which have the name Talmont. Only 2. There is Talmont Saint Hilaire, which you see on this picture. And that's the castle of Talmont Saint Hilaire. And Talmont Saint Hilaire was some home of Richard Lionheart. And most of the community who works within a Halpern map or with Oak Island map automatically, and I was one of them, take for granted that the Talmont we're talking about here, because of the Lionceau, the lion cub, they're talking about Richard Cœur de Lion, Richard Lionheart, and therefore it's all about Talmont. And then we're at a dead end, because then what? What do we move on from there? What does this brings to Oak Island, that Talmont? Is that the place the ship left? Is that, we don't know, and I haven't seen any expository on why Talmont Saint Hilaire is connected to Oak Island beside this sentence. And there's one thing for me that is not working very well, which is we're not talking about the lion of Talmont. It's not written the lion of Talmont. Richard Lionheart was the lion of Talmont. We're talking about his son, the Lionceau, the lion cub. So we're not talking about Richard Lionheart here. We're talking about his son. Officially, he doesn't have any descendancy. Officially, there's no heir, and there's no son after him who took the crown. The best we can find is this person named Philippe de Cognac, or Philippe de Fauconbridge, or Philippe Fitzroy, who, according to Wikipedia, and I haven't checked further on this, but I take that for granted, Philippe of Cognac was the illegitimate son of King Richard I of England and an unidentified mother. Would he be the lion cub? Is that him, therefore, the Lionceau de Talmont, if the lion of Talmont is Richard I? There's not much about Philippe of Cognac else, and I did not investigate deep into that branch. Maybe that Philippe de Fauconbridge is linked with Oak Island. Maybe he didn't write the map because the years don't match, and I'll explain you why in a couple of slides. So it's just information. Richard I had a son, but it's illegitimate. So the lion cub would be illegitimate, and I'm not sure that's the right thing. That's exactly what we're talking about. So as if you followed all the videos after all those years, first, I thank you a lot. And second, you know that some things came to us, Michael and I, by either chance or luck or circumstances. And one of the circumstances in my personal life is that, I didn't put it in a couple of sentences. Basically, I lost my job, and the company I was working for remotely deleted my hard disk, onto which I stored all my Oak Island work. So panic on board, and I thought I lost everything. Thank God I had backup of the video, backups of the most of my work, except Google Earth. And so I called Michael and said, Michael, you got copies of my file I sent you maybe someday? Did I send you my... Tell me I sent you my Google Earth work. And thank God he had a copy of some work, so I didn't lose too much. And he sent me back those KMZ files. And what he sent me was more than what I created, because he added his own research on it. You remember, right, when we were working when we left you on one of the last videos, not the last one, it was all about Rochefoucauld Castle's alignment, but the one before, right? Got Oak Island on the left, and we got that beautiful line that reaches the St. Honora Highland and goes further out to the Dunshore Pyramids. This one, Michael found it because I didn't investigate on that side of the world. And that one goes to the Fontaine of Rochefoucauld. And you can't cheat. It's a straight line, going straightly aligned to the Northern Cross and going down. So he gave me back the KMZ, and some of them was my work here. But I did not recognize one thing, is that red design. And I talked to Michael a couple of days ago and said, can you explain me what you were doing there? Basically what Michael did is that, recognizing we had a Northern Cross on top here, he took one of the cone with the, this would be the 429 point, the top of Northern Cross is that red intersection. This here in Alençon would be the 429 extension. So this is really the cone of the top of Nolan's Cross. And that red line going from one cone to the second cone goes straightly perpendicular to our line that goes from the Dash 4 Pyramids and Saint Honora and the Fontaine of Rochefoucauld and Oak Island. And what Michael did, and he gave me the KMZ file like this, is that he drew a circle for which radius is that point as a center, and the radius is the Fountain of Rochefoucauld. And it goes to La Rochelle. And it goes to another place. You see on top here, Talmont Saint Hilaire? That's the Talmont we've been talking about so far. I discovered, moving in that region southwest of France, that there was another Talmont, and there's only 2 Talmonts in France, and that's the second one, Talmont sur Gironde. So from the Rochefoucauld here, I was visiting the fountain and the castle. Takes only an hour driving going to Talmont sur Gironde. So therefore I tried to discover, and I went to visit Talmont sur Gironde to see if there was anything for us. And if there's a video today, it's because there are things for us. So thank you, Michael. Another circumstances where we shouldn't have done that, and I shouldn't have gotten his files, which were mine, but he added on top, and it brought us there. So this is Talmont sur Gironde. That's the village, and it's we have a championship in France every year. We try to elect the most beautiful village in France, and this is like every year it's part of the top 10. It is a beautiful village, very small, and you can see the fortress around, which came in later. It was under Edward, King Edward, I can't remember which one, the third, I think, of England, who bought this place from the local county owners. The Rochefoucauld were involved, but I'll explain that later. Very, very nice. You can see a church on the right-hand side. You can see a cemetery in front of the church. Let's carry on. This is another model vision of what it was back in the days. And another picture showing that indeed there are some kind of a harbor in front, and there used to be a castle, and this is Talmont around 1600. So as I said, went there and visited, and the first thing that struck me is that in Talmont sur Gironde, and not in the Talmont Saint Hilaire, the one on north everybody believes is connected to the Oak Island map, on Talmont sur Gironde there is a marine cemetery. A marine cemetery. This must ring a bell. A couple of words about marine cemeteries. I translated the Wikipedia French into here in doc. A marine cemetery is a cemetery located facing the sea. I had another explanation, which I can't find on Wikipedia. It's also a cemetery where sailors lost at seas, for whom you would not recover any corpse or body. You would still have a tomb, empty of course, because the body was not to be found. And those cemeteries were also called marine cemeteries, but that's personal culture. That's not official Wikipedia. Official Wikipedia, it's a cemetery locating facing the sea. The most famous one is in Sète, and it's in Sète you would find the Paul Valéry and Georges Brassens, who was a French singer, but Paul Valéry with his poem, The Marine Cemetery, from which we find a copy or some kind of copy or some reference into the La Formule document, supposedly from Jim McInnes to David Jackson. Whoever wrote those lines, one of the two or somebody else, but they're talking about the Marine Cemetery. I was surprised to learn that in France, there's only a limited number. There's only 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 official marine cemetery, and the one from Talmont is not even referenced in there. You don't find the one from Talmont in there, though the city hall and the region state and claim it is a marine cemetery because it's located facing the sea. So Talmont Saint Hilaire does not have a marine cemetery, and Talmont sur Gironde does have a marine cemetery. So I just thought it was interesting. Now the church, went to visit the church. The church collapsed some 200 years ago. As you can see here, it's almost a square. The church used to go further out. Further out, I'm not very good in drawing, and you know this. Let's try to do this way, this way, this way, probably like this. It used to go further out on the sea, but that part here collapsed 200 years ago, and the whole building collapsed. So they did that structure here. That structure here, they reinforced this part here, and they just cut it and made a end, made a stop, because they didn't have anywhere else to go, and there was not enough foundation, strong foundation. So the church didn't used to have that shape, but now it does. And it's kind of a peculiar church. That's the entrance. This church is consecrated. Not sure that's English. It's dedicated to Saint Radegonde, which was the spouse of Clovis I, one of the first king of France, and she was fed up with the orgies, with the way of living at the court in France back in 590. We're talking 550. She left and almost became an hermit, and that's why she became a saint. And this church is all about her. And this church is on the path to Saint Joan of Compostela pilgrimage. It's on the road. So here we go. We visit the church, and very interesting, this church. They got some very interesting features. In this alcove here, in this little place, you would find written in French a plaque. Well, the plaque is actually right here. And the plaque says these are columns, remains, coming from a tomb of a notable, would be high-ranked inhabitant of Talmont, who was buried in the church in 1734. We don't have his name, but I made that note to Michael when I showed him. Is like, that's strange. So somebody got buried in that church in 1734, a high-ranked person from Saint Talmont, Talmont sur Gironde, and he had pentacles, Solomon's stars, if you want. Interesting, and I didn't see that. I only saw that today. With on the left-hand side, those one has got the arcs around, and here it doesn't. It doesn't have the arcs on the right-hand side. I can zoom a little bit for you if you want to see better. Here. So I don't know. I can't give any meaning, and I don't know. But I found in a church some. It's interesting. Not to say the least, it's interesting. So that's one of the branch of the church. That's actually the wall that got rebuilt. It used to go further out. And if you turn left by 90 degrees, you would see here, I can't remember what this space is about. This is the main altar where you would pray and do the mass and everything. And here on the left, there's another arcade and another cove dedicated to Saint Mary Magdalena. Interesting, because that church is supposed to be for Saint Radegonde. And you see this here, I'm circling. This is not lightning. This is something I've never seen in a church. So let's move on the left-hand side. And what you see on top is a ship that is hanged from the ceiling on that church. I don't know if you've ever seen a church with that. Is it because there's a marine cemetery? But something's got to do here with ships and travel. And I walk further. This is Mary Magdalena. And when I move, I was very surprised to see that golden plaque here, which is not a plaque. It's more a cabinet. As you can see, there's a keyhole here. And I'll let you guess, what can you see as the pattern on this cabinet? And it took me 3-4 seconds, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the Graal. That's the cup. You see the cup here? That's one of the definition of the Saint Grail, is that it's a cup. And here you got some kind of a sun or some kind of a circle thing with shining. Is it light? Is it the sun? I don't know. But I find it interesting, again, disturbing, to have a reference to what I identified as the Holy Grail here into that church. Interesting, isn't it? And even more interesting, another one is like, I didn't expect that one at all. I was really searching into the history and the past of Talmont Saint Hilaire. Sorry, of Talmont sur Gironde. Here I am, getting mixed up. And I came to discover there was a sphinx, like in Gizeh near the pyramids. There used to be a sphinx in Talmont sur Gironde. And I managed to find postcards from early 1900s with the rock of the Sphinx in Talmont. You can see the church here on the left-hand side. And you can see a shape that looks somewhat like a sphinx. Give you another picture. Here, the church on the left with the village behind, and there's a rock there, which maybe on this picture looks like, you can see it in the background here. So it's a little island that's in front of Talmont, and there used to be a sphinx or a rock. Of course it's not a sphinx, or is it? A rock that kind of looks like the Sphinx of Gizeh. Would it be the son of the Sphinx in Gizeh? Because the Sphinx is a lion body with the head of a human pyramid, of the pharaoh. We think it's been reworked, and that was not his original face. Something there was before. But nevertheless, Sphinx have got the particularities of having lion bodies. So the lion cub is like the baby of the lion. If we take the lion is the Sphinx in Gizeh, the lion cub, the son, could be the Sphinx in Talmont, though it's not exactly an Egyptian Sphinx, and you don't have pyramids behind, and there was no sculpted pharaoh's head or nothing, but it's just the allegory or the idea could be this. So what happened to this Sphinx? Why isn't it there anymore? Because right at the end of the First World War, the American troops, newly engaged in the conflict, gave the starting gun by beginning to establish a vast port area that extended over the Caillou Plateau, which is where Talmont sur Gironde is, and the marshes, making the Sphinx rock disappear in the process. So it was TNT'd. It was dynamite by the US Army in 1917, 1918, because they wanted to turn and transform Talmont sur Gironde at the estuary of Bordeaux, protecting Bordeaux, as a main marine and fueling depot and etc. So they started to make those works, including destroying and blowing away that small island with that Sphinx on it. Interesting. One thing I asked myself at this stage is, okay, so there's a reference, maybe, and I'm just saying maybe, I'm not pretending I'm right, I'm just opening another door, that the Lionceau is actually the small Sphinx of Talmont. Could the author of the map be aware of this? Because I was not aware of this, and if you drive by Talmont today, nobody tells you there used to be a Sphinx there. I found this on the internet on those old postcards. What about the author? Well, we know, and credits to John Stammer Show, which was you can find that on his YouTube channel, and you get the reference of his YouTube channel on my, of course. On the 12th March 24, during his podcast, at 18 minute 12, he says, this came from Ron on an email to him, to myself. He said so to John Stammer. Sorry, John, if there's only one M in your last word. And according to the Comprehendum, Oak Island Comprehendum, you can find on the internet, supposedly it was written in 1908 and it's signed by CLY on the Wars of the Lord. It's the Book of the War of the Lord document. Go to this video. I think I put it here. You can Google it. You can Google, of course, John Stammer Quest of Oak Island YouTube channel. Retrieve that video in the live section from the 12th of March and reach 18 minutes 12, you'll find this section here. And I don't know if you guys are aware of following the channel, Michael and I's, but this to me was a landmark. The book, this book is mentioned in the Bible, and it's one of the lost book, but there are references. I'll let you again freeze and read if you're interested. And this was from that handwriting from that CLY author in 1908. That's the title. So this was written in the Book of the War of the Lord. And we all saw very striking similarities between some of the letters in the map and some of the letters in this document, making us believe that the author of the map is the author of that handwritten copies or mention about the Book of the War of the Lords from John Stammer's Ron's email, meaning that this map would have been made by CLY in 1908. And now we have a name, though we don't know who's behind, and we have a date. This is not from 1347. This is from 1908, probably, or 1910, or 1907. But this was before 1918, when the Sphinx was TNT'd by the Americans. So the Sphinx still exists at the time at Talmont. So the Lionceau de Talmont could be that Sphinx. Why is he bringing us to Talmont? Maybe because of this. And it's only the beginning of that geometry, because we're only exploring this. But on that geometry, again, the red line is issued from the Nolan's Cross top and Nolan's Cross arm cone, and reported onto that line that goes from Oak Island to Darfur, going through the fountain of Rochefoucauld. You would let's zoom. You would go to Talmont-sur-Gironde. Here we go down. You recognize the village from the picture I saw earlier with the church right here. There used to be a castle, a tower here overlooking the Gironde River. And the red line, the circle line, goes through that parking. And I don't know what was there before, but was there a special place? Was there, I don't know. But it's interesting, it goes there. It goes straight to, of course, the fountain of the Rochefoucauld, because that's what Michael selected as the radius. And it goes into La Rochelle. Here is La Rochelle, and it would intersect that line at this very point. I tried to look in past document, what was this point? Now, as you can see, it's just a residential area. Was there something 400 or 600 years ago there, or during the Templar time? Who knows? I can't from the internet find precise map from the time extending. I can find very good old maps for the harbor, because the harbor is the place here, and the old city right here, and you can see the fortification somehow around. This I can find, but beyond that, it was like marsh, or it was just plains and or fields or whatever. But that's pretty interesting, I think. So what do we have as conclusion? We have two Talmonts who could correspond to the Lionceau of Talmont from the Zinas map. Talmont Saint Hilaire has got geographic connection to the Rochefoucauld castle alignment. That was in my last video. One of the alignment hits Talmont Saint Hilaire. Talmont Saint Hilaire is the home of Richard Lionheart. And it's got connection with the Rochefoucauld lineage by the Duc de Trémoille, and one of the branch of the Rochefoucauld used to own Talmont Saint Hilaire. So these are the cases for us to consider Talmont Saint Hilaire. But Talmont-sur-Gironde also has got cases, interesting cases list. It's got geographic connection to Northern Cross, to the French Northern Cross on top near Paris, as I just showed a second ago. It's got a marine cemetery, as mentioned into the La Formule by Bill Jackson and Jim McInnes. It features a peculiar church with a hung ship on the ceiling and a grail cabinet in an area dedicated to St. Mary Magdalena. And it features the Sphinx, maybe the lion cub of the Gizeh Sphinx in Egypt. So just opening a door, just looking at what's inside that door and that place. Not sure there are things coming up later, but if you guys got ideas, if you know that place, whatever, I'm happy to hear, because I'm not sure anymore that the Talmont referenced in the Zina map is Talmont Saint Hilaire. I may believe this is now Talmont sur Gironde. Thank you very much, guys. Subscribe if you like, and I'm sure there'll be other videos as new discoveries are coming. No news, no video. Take good care of yourself. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.